Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining in right now. We're probably just going to wait maybe another minute or two to get started, allow some other people to sign in and be admitted to but we'll get started here in another minute or so.
And one request for housekeeping, if folks could please mute themselves, if you haven't already. And one other note, we are recording this presentation, so it'll be available after for everyone's use, but we also want to make sure people know that this is being recorded. If you're just joining us, we're waiting a couple more minutes to kick off, and thanks so much for coming to learn more about the mentoring program. We appreciate you joining.
What is it?
You're just joining us, we're getting ready to start. We've asked folks in the chat to put where they're from and if they are a mentor or a mentee. We also have something later in the presentation about this, but if you happen to see your mentee or your mentor's name in the attendee list, feel free to reach out and say hi directly. Kate, Caitlin, I think we're at about 6:05. Do you want to go ahead and kick us off?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. We're 45, what I was hoping for. All right. Hi, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon to all the people across the country who are joining us today. This is for the Women in Planning 2021 Pilot Mentoring Program Kickoff. let's see if I can figure out how to advance my slides. That would be all right. So welcome everybody and thanks for joining. Just a reminder, if you're joining us today, please make sure that you mute yourself. We will have a question and answer portion at the end where you can unmute and ask your questions. So the agenda for tonight's meeting, we'll do brief introductions. We'll go through a program overview, some suggestions from the team who put together the mentoring program, and then we will wrap with a participant Q&A to ask any questions that you might have of us or the program. So introductions, I am Caitlin Wentz. I'm a senior planner with the City of Colorado Springs. I also serve as the Director of Programs for the Women in Planning Division. And with me today, we have Melissa Dickens, who is the Vice Chair of Women in Planning, and you are a planner with Hillsborough in Florida. I forget exactly.
Close enough.
Okay, close enough. I'm sorry. And so we are the sort of leaders with the APA Women in Planning Division who have put together the mentoring program. We did have input and guidance from all the other executive members of the APA Women in Planning Division, and we're all very happy that you're here today to participate in our pilot program. I'll pass it to Melissa.
Sure, thanks so much. So we started this program because it was really a clear priority for our membership. We heard from our 2020 membership survey that this was something that our members really wanted the division to focus on. And we really saw that when we opened up the pilot mentee slots. They actually filled up within an hour. So thank you to everyone for showing such enthusiasm, and thank you so much to all of our mentors who graciously stepped up. We saw mentees from Alaska to Florida to everywhere in between. And we really got a lot of varied requests in terms of what people were looking to get out of the program. You know, everything from getting the first job to addressing internal politics, to advice from another woman of color, to just having a friendly voice on call for help for career questions. So there's really a broad range of things that people were looking for. And so we have a few purposes that we're outlining for the program, but really you'll see that it is up to you. So one thing to note, we did send out within the past couple of days your specific match. You should have gotten an email from our Gmail account. We have been hearing, I know Caitlin's told me that hers went to spam. So despite attempting to avoid spam blockers, they may be in your spam box, but you should have received a connection in terms of who your mentor is or who your mentee is. We went through all the applications personally and matched people on a variety of different things, depending on what they put in terms of what was important and what their goals were, years of experience. We'd also invite you, if you do see your match participating tonight, not everyone could make it, but if you see your mentor or your mentee, please feel free to chat them hello, say hi. Maybe they can put a face to the name that way. One other thing we will be asking is if you haven't reached out to your mentee or your mentor yet, we'd ask that you do that pretty soon just to get the conversation going and get everything started. And one thing that we want to make sure to underscore is that we want this to be flexible. Everyone is busy. And so we want to leave it up to the individual pairs about when and how often to meet. Really, the purpose is intended for it to be flexible. You saw the variety of things that that folks were asking for. So there's really, you know, what works and what is needed for someone who is fresh out of school and looking for a job is going to be different than someone who's looking to move into leadership or someone who's hoping to take that next step. So we really wanted to make the program as open and flexible as possible, not only on what's discussed, but also how often people meet. And next slide, and if folks could make sure to mute themselves when you join, that would be helpful. I'm hearing a little echo. So moving into the overview of the program, our pilot program is going to be 6 months in length. So we're going to wrap it up by the end of this year. Again, we have the matched pairs, and you all determine what works best, what's needed. We want to provide the flexibility of virtual meetings. If you all happen to be geographically close, there are a few pairs that are, and you feel comfortable meeting in person, and in accordance with all your federal, state, and local requirements, that's also an option. We have a suggested meeting time of once a month, but again, we want to leave that up to you. We'll also be checking in periodically and providing a wrap up at the end of the program. And if the pilot is successful, we want to hear from you what is working, what is not, what we should tweak. We'll go ahead and expand the program in 2022. And so we do have a few suggestions for mentees, a few ideas that mentees, if this is your first time participating in a mentorship program, some things that may help you get the most out of this relationship. So of course, we all know that whatever we do, whether it's volunteering, whether it's our job, whether it's APA Women in Planning, what we put into it is what we get out of it. So making sure to be self-directed and really knowing yourself, having self-awareness about what kinds of things you want to get out of the program. We have some ideas about questions you can ask your mentor. What do you most want to know in terms of how they got to where they are, or you know, what do they attribute their success to? How do they deal with being the only woman in the room? Questions like that. And we also recommend that all mentees ask themselves questions to really get to know where the focus should be and where they most need to grow and develop. So things like strengths, weaknesses, how can I figure out what my blind spots are? Are there any barriers that are standing in the way of how I can achieve my goal? How do I work on my formal skills and my informal skills? Where do I want to be in 1 year, 5 year, 10 years? We have more questions and more ideas in the full program and resource guide, but those are a few to kind of get you thinking about what can help you get the most out of the program. And I think, Caitlin, you're going to go ahead and go over the next few slides.
Yep. So similar to what Melissa just presented as it relates to mentees and their participation in the program, we have similar suggestions for mentors. We're really looking for the folks that have signed up to be mentors to be proactive in reaching out to your mentee, to really value diversity of perspective. Y'all may be coming from different walks of life, and having, you know, two different people coming together and understanding each other is very important. To be non-judgmental and remember your own early career challenges, what that was like for you, and how you can really provide good guidance and advice to your mentee. You also want to make sure that we are establishing expectations and clear boundaries and guidelines for how your relationship will operate. And some questions that you may want to ask yourself or ask your mentee is, what do you really want to be and do? What in your career is currently working? Or how can I help you achieve your goals? So as a mentor, you're there to be of service, but also to provide guidance and advice to a person earlier in their career. Recording of this session. Please tell me I'm still on. Okay, good. So mentoring ideas are all provided in the resource guide. Listed here are just a few of those that we have highlighted in the guide, including some resume review or feedback on cover letters, doing mock interviews, or how to build strategic relationships. These are all different ideas that you all can focus on in your one-on-one mentor meetings. We also provide a list of resources. These are just some of the examples that we have in our guide for assessment. Books on mentoring as well. Again, just some suggested guidance if you all are needing some examples or some suggestions for things that you can do to further enrich your mentoring experience. And so for some final thoughts, the resource guide will be emailed out to you in your email. So that'll have a lot of the topics that we've just gone over in the last 10 minutes or so. Reach out to your match. If you don't see them on the Zoom call today, make sure that you reach out to them via email. And it could be either a mentor reaching out to a mentee or the mentee reaching out to their mentor. There is no guidance there. So whoever wants to make first contact is more than welcome to do so. This webinar is going to be recorded, so we will have that available for anybody to visit back to. And we will be periodically checking in through the email that was sent to you yesterday, which is apawpdmentoring2021@gmail.com. So make sure you take a look at your inbox and have that as a safe sender so it doesn't get put in your spam folder like mine did. And like we said, this is a pilot program, so we're really testing the waters here, seeing what works and what doesn't. At the end of the program, we will have a wrap-up guide and a survey for any participants to provide feedback and any ways that we can make this program better so that we can continue to do it in the future. So we really appreciate everybody's willingness to participate in this program, and we are really excited to kick it off tonight. And I think with that, if there are any questions from the audience or any of the participants here, we'd be happy to field those and assist. And you can type questions in the chat or unmute yourselves and say your name so we know who you are and ask your question.
Hi, this is Virginia Sakura. I just want a question about, it was mentioned that like maybe every month we touch base. So maybe we should have a group like a meeting and try to share what happened in that month with our mentoring.
Yeah, I think the idea is that we're asking the folks one-on-one to get together once a month, but I like the idea of maybe at some point throughout the process, we could have a larger collaborative discussion where maybe we could connect people who are mentors and mentees and have a larger discussion. I think that's a great idea. When we mentioned the monthly frequency, we were thinking one-on-one.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think maybe quarterly for us as a group. And maybe that's a good time to check in because we have monthly or however we schedule with our mentees. I'm
Sure.
a mentor, by the way. So.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I see some comments in the chat about maybe a midway point check-in with the whole group or something like that. So it seems like there's a lot of consensus around that. Okay. I thought I saw Aaron Perdue's hand raised.
Yeah, I had a question just about receiving the email. I never received it, so I just sent a test to the mentor Gmail account. So hopefully someone will get it and then can reply.
Yep, either Melissa or I will check the email after this meeting today, and we should be able to respond to you to get that information over to you.
Super.
Does anyone else have any questions or, anything you want to share for the good of the group? Gabrielle?
Hi, thank you so much for putting this together. I just graduated from college and I'm totally grateful for any guidance I can get. So this is really what I was looking for. Do you have any advice on how you can make the most? My mentor is in Tallahassee, Florida, and I'm in New Jersey. I don't think she's on the call, but do you have any advice for how you can make the most of this long distance relationship?
Kate, you want me to handle that one? Not seeing my view is messed up, but I think, the part of the reason we were able to do this is because we have all gotten used to sort of a virtual environment. So we were able to not have people be limited to geographic restrictions. So, if someone is very interested in starting their own planning firm in Omaha and there's someone in Georgia who has started their own planning firm, then we're able to make that connection. So really we see this being, hopefully as useful, if not more useful than having a mentor or mentee in your same town, because you'll be able to, bounce ideas off someone who has a different perspective, has an outside perspective. I think there's also some opportunity to think about what are some things that perhaps as a recent graduate you're struggling with, or things that you want to get questions on. I think a lot of those things we can all say are universal. And so whether your mentor is in Tallahassee or in New Jersey, probably there are a lot of similar things that that person has been through that they might be able to advise you on. But I think it also comes down to communication and really talking to your mentor about, what communication style works best. Maybe it doesn't have to be a conversation every time. It could be, shadowing them in a meeting or having an introduction to other people that they may know. So there's a lot of different options and a lot of ways to make it work for you.
Thank you.
There's some nice dialogue in the chat about different ways for the groups of people to meet with one another. And so one of the suggestions here was when we do our midway follow-up or quarterly follow-up, that we do them as groups of mentors and mentees, which would allow each group the opportunity to get together and hear from each group and how they are experiencing the process. So I think that is a wonderful idea that was added into the chat. There also was a question about the resource guide. So the resource guide that we've been talking about is something that Melissa and I have created. We'll be emailing that out as a PDF document, likely sometime later this week or early next week. We also have some questions here. There's a question here from QN. I'm sorry, QN. I don't know that I have the capability to do a poll or anything at the moment. We do have that data for what stage of career each participant is in. That was one of the Google form criteria. So we have that data separately. I don't have it readily available or tabulated to provide those numbers for you at the moment. But that is something that we could share later in the process because that is data that we did collect.
Hi, I'm trying to see where I can raise my hand, but I couldn't. But I have a suggestion
I
that.
saw some other questions. And, oh, here's from.
Sorry, I couldn't raise my hand here. So I have a suggestion also that when we have our midway check, maybe by that time we already get to know each other with the mentors and mentees. Maybe there is some kind of some swapping because, for example, it depends on what the mentors focus of the mentors' expertise and the interest of the mentees. So maybe then the mentees like some experience in another field. So then we can kind of having some swapping so that then there will be other ideas from a mentor that the mentee likes to go in that direction.
Yeah, I think probably for this year, I think that is a great idea. I think it may be something that we could do in terms of bringing different folks together. Just logistically, swapping may turn into a spreadsheet matching challenge. But I think it would be helpful for us. We're hearing a lot of conversations about having a group check-in or a more frequent check-in. And so maybe that's an opportunity for folks to say, hey, my mentors have been great, but I'd love to meet someone else who's involved in transportation or someone else who has an environmental background. And so we could use that, I think, to facilitate those conversations and provide an opportunity for people to branch out and grow their network that way too. So that's a great suggestion. And I am seeing another question in the chat, and it says, does the guidebook talk about how to set goals with the mentor mentee and how to navigate the first couple of conversations? We have some resources within the guidebook that will probably be helpful for that. I know that Caitlin has pulled a whole bunch of books even and articles, you know, specifically some of the questions that we have in the guidebook will help folks navigate those first few conversations. We also, you know, one of the other benefits to being virtual is that if you have a question that maybe feels a little uncomfortable, you wouldn't want to ask, I don't know, the director of your firm or someone that you know the question. You also have the opportunity to have more candid discussions with your mentor. So that's another advantage of matching people who may be in different geographic areas. So I did want to note that, but also the questions in the guidebook and the suggested resources, those will be a great way to learn about how to set goals and how to navigate conversations. Caitlin, I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat for now.
Nope, I don't see any either. So if anybody has any questions and would like to unmute themselves and ask, you know, we still have plenty of time tonight.
It's
I
not a
see-
question.
Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to say I'm pretty quiet because it's been a long day and I'm tired. But thank you for setting this up, and I'm looking forward to the next 6 months.
Thank you. Amanda, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just had a comment. So since this is a pilot, and I guess you're trying to, you know, track the performance, the, you know, outcome of everything, do we need to track like the meetings that we're having with our mentees or any sort of like evaluation form or anything like that for you guys? Would be helpful.
Go ahead, Melissa.
I think probably at the end, we'll probably have a survey that will help us, you know, find out, hey, this part worked really well. This was challenging. I could use some more structure here. So rather, you know, we want to make this as easy on you as possible. So, you know, we're not going to ask people to, you know, track or record how often they meet, but just generally, if you can note to yourself what works, or hey, I could use some more guidance here, that will be helpful for us as we try to shape the program for next year. But thank you, good question. Also, we really want to thank everyone who has signed up to be a mentor in this program. I mean, we had such a crazy demand that Caitlin and I were getting very nervous about how we were going to be able to match all of the eagerness. And we actually do have a waiting list too. So there was a lot of demand for people who are looking for mentors, not only students, but also young professionals, people looking to transition. So we really want to thank everyone who answered the call for mentors. This is, you know, not only a great way to give back to the profession, but some of the things that we see in other mentoring programs is that, you know, it really can be a benefit to the mentor as well. You know, learning what maybe your junior employees are concerned about, or what some of the trends are for students coming out of school. You know, we've had folks who have been mentors, you know, end up establishing long-term relationships with their mentees that are valuable for things like recruitment in the future. And so this, we hope, is something that is very useful and helpful to the mentees, but also of benefit to the mentors. And we really want to thank everyone who has volunteered their time for this. Thank you for
Probably
the
should have had
nice
some like
comment.
pre-done questions or something to fill up the time. If there's anyone else who has questions? I mean, I don't want to keep you guys longer than you want to be on the call, but also would like to, make sure that we're answering or addressing any questions that any of the participants might have who are with us today.
I have a quick question. So Marilyn Hall in Athens, Georgia. I just sent the email and a LinkedIn message to my mentee, and I'm all excited. So of course I haven't heard from her. She's not on the call, and she hasn't replied to my messages, and that's fine. But if you don't hear back from her after a week or two with a little bit of badgering, what should I do?
So I think we would recommend that you reach out to our email address, apawpdmentoring2021@gmail.com, and let us know that you're having trouble connecting with your mentee. We can either attempt to assist you, or we do have an incredible backlog of mentees who would be ecstatic to be considered as part of the program. So there will be an opportunity for us to pair a mentor with a mentee. May be a little bit difficult the other way around.
Great question though, and that goes for folks who are, if for some reason, there sometimes things happen, people switch jobs, there's a change in personal circumstance, we'll do our best to try to connect folks if something is not working. We do hope that everyone will be proactive about trying to make it work. We have a great division and great membership, so we think that everything should go smoothly, but of course you can always email or contact us if there are issues. And I see a raised hand. Is it Zam?
Yeah, Zam.
Hi.
It's just a permanent nickname, so it's okay if you mess it up.
I
I think I know some people who could probably also mentor, but maybe aren't part of APA Women in Planning. I know a couple who maybe just didn't read the email thoroughly or something. Is it still okay to recruit people in? Would that be helpful, or do you want to wait until after the pilot program?
That's a great question. I think what would be most helpful is if there are, to kind of have some potential mentors on deck in case circumstances change or someone has an issue with their individual pairing or something like that. So I think we might be tapping into you if there's a need later this year, but certainly we would want to tap into your network for future mentoring, and also potentially, some other initiatives that the division is doing. So thank you. We really appreciate that offer. Very helpful. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions or raised hands. So Caitlin, do we want to give people the gift of either a time to go eat dinner or time to finish out their day?
Yeah, I think we can wrap it up. So thank you everybody for participating today, for asking questions about our program, for being interested in being a participant in our program. We really appreciate all the time and effort that you've put in so far, and that will be done in the future. So thank you everybody for being part of this. Look out for our email later this week with the recording of this session and our resource guide. If you have any questions, make sure to email us. It's apawpdmentoring2021@gmail.com. It's in the chat as well. And again, thanks everybody so much for participating with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.